Hi, this is Cheryl St.Pierre. This is a Beebeecraft tutorial that I'm adding to my last package opening, and this is called the Beaded Chain Swirl Clasp Bracelet, and it's featuring these gorgeous porcelain beads, and the hole on them is big enough that I can fit this chain inside, and it gives it a really unique look, and it's just stunning. Those beads just, oh, such a rich look. And these beads come in lots of colors. I think there's about 7 colors. They're all kind of pastel-y, and the beads have a really nice pearl effect where it's kind of a rainbow pearl. These are the pink ones, and currently, I don't know if it's because of my package opening that they showed so beautifully, but they're out of stock. So if you have an account with them, or if you don't, make an account with them, and they have a button that you can click. You know, remind them to order more is what it says, and once you click that, then it says that you will get notified when they're back in stock. So if you're really wanting them, go ahead and do that. And I never noticed that before because I've never had something be out of stock that I wanted, and I clicked on it because of, you know, being important for the tutorial. You need to have that availability of those beads. Maybe people were ordering them ahead of time because I think I said I was using this for a tutorial. So anyways, this is called the Beaded Chain Swirl Clasp Bracelet, and so we're going to be making the clasp, and then I'm going to show you how to do the chain part, which is a little bit on the finicky side, and you'll have to bear with me because I even, you know, you got to play with it to get it right. And anyways, so let's move on. I wanted to mention to you that Beebeecraft has the package opening for if you've got a small channel with like 100 subscribers or more, you too can do this program just like I'm doing, where you do tutorials for them to get product, and it's fun, and you might enjoy doing it. And they actually have a large variety of items. It's not necessarily just jewelry making items. So you can take a snoop around their store. I'll have the link in the description of where it is, and yeah, just take a look. So let's move on. I'm gonna discuss the supplies of what you need. You will need 20 gauge wire. I'm using dead soft copper, which is 0.8 millimeters. Now I took 4 feet and I used it pretty much all of it. So if you wanted to be generous with that 4 feet, go ahead. 3 crystals of your choice. Today I used bicones, but in my prototype I used 6x4 rondelles. So you could do, you know, whatever you feel will complement your bracelet the best. So I did 4mm bicones today. The porcelain beads, of course, and the link will be working in the description. Of course, I can't work here. So yeah, we'll just have to check that out. Chain. Now, the size of the chain is kind of important. What I found worked the best were links that were 2mm by 2.5mm, because the hole, they say the hole is 2.5 millimeters wide. I think it's a little bit bigger than that, to tell you the truth, but you need to be, you know, safe than sorry. So the chain is 2 millimeters wide. What that also does is it also allows you to put a wire right through it in the middle of working. So some other chains I have, the wire won't fit through until I get that last link off. This one's got lots of playroom. So that's why that size is kind of beneficial. And so you might need to shop around for wire that or chain that works for you. And you need to give yourself, I today used 16 inches of chain, but if you're making for somebody that's got a bigger wrist, you might need up to 18 inches. So I was generous with the 18 inches there. For tools, you might need a Ballpein Hammer and Anvil if you choose that work hardening method for the clasp part of it. Just the infinity link clasp that's here. You might need that. I am just demonstrating with a pair of pliers to, you know, put pressure, or you could use pre-hardened wire. Excuse me. You'll need your round nose pliers, your chain nose pliers, your flush cutters, and your ruler. And so it's pretty, other than that, it's pretty simple. I think we're ready to head on into making this. So thank you for joining me. We'll continue. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is take your 20 gauge wire and find the approximate center, like this. And then take your round nose pliers, and I'm going about 1/3 up my pliers and kind of making a loop at the end. And I'm going to try not to go out of screen with this, but you're going to have to forgive me because it's really difficult doing this under the camera. I'll do my best to try and stay in screen. And I want you to twist like this, and the ends of your wire are going to tangle. So if I'm doing stuff out and if it hits the camera, that's why. So this is 4 feet, and I'm hoping it's enough because my prototype I made much smaller, so I'm just guesstimating how much we're going to need. We might have to add extra wire. If we do, we do. So I'm going to try and twist, make this in total length about 1.5 inches, between 1.5 inches and 1.25 inches. That, I mean, it can be whatever length you want it to be, but my prototype, I want to make it longer than that. I want to try and make the clasp more hidden than my prototype was. Maybe I should bring it out. This was my prototype, and my clasp here, isn't as hidden. I'd like it to be a little bit more hidden. I want to try and build more swirling over there to kind of be over top of part of this. Not sure if we'll succeed in that, but that's the goal anyway, so we'll see how we go. And I made this bracelet a 1.5 weeks ago, so I can't remember exactly how I did this, so this one we're doing today will look totally different. So we have to go with the flow. You can try and follow along with me, or you can just do, if you're confident enough to do your own finger swirling design, by all means. That's where I want you to get. The main thing we have to focus on, though, is keeping it strong and attached. And I'm just straightening this out so I can measure it to see if I've got it long enough. And my rulers, there we go. So I think I want to twist just a smidge more. Okay. And now I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to straighten this out. And this is going to work harden it. It's going to make the twisting neater. And I'm just going around. Okay, so that's where we're at. Now you're going to need your, we're going to pull this straight. You're going to need your round nose pliers again. We're going to do a loop at the end. And we're going to do about the center of the pliers here. And we're going to, like, just like that. I hope I was in screen while I did that. And I'm just going to wrap it around like that, just to secure it. Okay. So this is the one end, and the other end is going to be, we're going to have the loop or the hook there. So we got to leave room for a hook. We can't work towards the end of it. So if you have a permanent marker and you wanted to measure where we want to do the bend, it's about 1/2 inch, which is about 1.5 centimeters from the tip here is where we're going to bend. So if you want, we could just give it a bend like that, about 1/2 inch, and then we know where we're working from, because we don't want to do any securing on this part. And ideally, actually that should work. Just do that as a measurement. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is, this isn't the right way I want it, but we can fix all that later. Because we want this loop to be, actually, we're almost perfect. We can straighten that out. Now, wasn't paying attention when I was bending it, and I should have been. Okay, there. Actually, I'm going to straighten it out again. Start all over. Okay, so this loop, we went up and down, not side to side. We want it up and down. Then this, we want these two loops perpendicular to each other. So this one's going this way, and that other one's going up and down. And then we're going to do our measurement again of 1.5 centimeters, which is 1/2 inch. And I'm going approximate there. So it has that bend where we know not to do any wrapping around. And we want to swirl, have an overhang here, and we want an overhang here. So that can be challenging. So we're just going to do the best that we can. And I'm going to start with doing a swirl like that, right over the loop. Get this out of here so it's out of our way. And I'm going to put a bead on that inside wire. Now, my goal is to try and use 3 beads. I might end up using more since this is bigger. And today I'm using just 4mm bicones. In my other bracelet, I used 6x4 rondelles. So it's your personal choice what you want to use. There. So that's going to give a bit of air there. Okay, so I'm like that. And now I'm going to wrap it to give it strength. I'm going to go wrap it around this, like this. And now I'm going to fill in some more. See, so I've got overhang here. And that's, I just need to keep it fairly simple. Add some swirls. I added a swirl there. Now, my other one I made wide. We don't need to do that. It can be fairly narrow. But then I added some side dimension because the hook is going to take up space. So I'm going to show you what I mean by that. Is I did some wrapping on the side too. So it ended up widening it out because it was rocking back and forth on my wrist. With the hook was making it rock. So we needed to have some substance on the side to kind of keep it at an even keel, and it worked. So I went with that. Now, I just want to say that this is a very challenging tutorial for me. I've been having a hard time figuring out how to explain some of my things, what I'm doing. Now I've wrapped around again like that, and I'm going to go underneath again like that, and I'm gonna, now I'm on this side, and I'm going to introduce another bead because that's going to be around the middle. My prototype, I did not have enough wire, and I actually had to add more wire in the middle of my project too. And that always makes things harder. Okay, so all I've done is like that. And I'm going to wrap it around again. Having too many wraps is not going to be, I think it's going to actually be a wise thing to do. Give it really lots of strength. So now I'm like that. Going down under again. So I'm like that now. And I'm going to add another bead at this point. So this, we're just right over that bend. And so I don't want to attach it there, but it's given it a little bit of overhang, not much. I actually wanted more, so we'll see. I'm going underneath again, coming up here, and I'm going to do a swirly here, and then go around like that. So I'm just basically going underneath this wire a little bit to give it anchor from there, and going underneath. And now I'm going to give it some sideways spirals, swirls, just to give it that stability. And I'm coming across the top. Gonna add another swirl there. That's why I wasn't worried about starting out with not too many swirls, because I knew we'd be adding more depth to it. So I'm at the side there, and now to give it some strength, I'm actually gonna, because I curled there and went up like that, I'm gonna go in this swirl to anchor it again. pushing down like this. And now at this point, I have to pull one wire at a time because it's fighting me. And this can be challenging, and it didn't work out for me very well. Kind of messed up on me, so now I'm going to have to improvise. See, the wire had a mind of its own. So what we're going to have to do, yours might not have done this, is I'm going to put a swirl over top of that, just for beautification purposes. And see, you really need to be comfortable with yourself playing. Okay, so there. We kind of fixed it. We're going to be bending things, compacting things, and when we do that, it's going to make it stronger. Now, at this point, I'm going to leave this long, but I'm going to try and bend this and rest it against my wrist to see if it rocks. So I've got it at that bend, and we're not going to make this too big of a bend here. We're going to, see, I'm fairly small, and I'm pushing in that hook. And I always like the loop to stick out a little bit, because that way you know where you're going to hook it. So that's a bit too much, but you want it to be protruding a little bit. Still, it does a little bit. I'm gonna arch it a little bit, scrunch it in a little bit. Pull this out. Okay. To do it till you're happy with it. And if it takes a few times, I really recommend working with copper, not silver, until you're really confident of yourself, because you can throw away a lot of money with playing with just design with silver. Some people use that nickel silver. I'm allergic to it, so I can't. That would be... I've never used it to know what it's like. If it would be good for finger swirling. Okay. And now, I'm actually going to bend this up again, so I can finish it off. This is in my way. And I'm going to snip it off. I want some workability. I'm going to snip it off here, and I'm going to anchor it in there somewhere. So I'm going to take my flush cutters and snip it. I was generous with my 4 feet, so don't short yourself of the wire. Let's see, where would be good to anchor it? Just tuck it in someplace where it can't get pulled out, but where it's actually hidden in the design. You don't want it poking up here either, so you got to be careful. And I had it too long, it's actually poking back. So I gotta go in and snip it off. in. There. And wrong pliers. Okay, so at this point, to strengthen it, you can tap it with your pliers. You could have it on an anvil or table surface and take your rawhide mallet and tap it, or just squishing it and compacting it until you feel that it's stable and sturdy enough. And there it is. There's the link that we're going to put in this bracelet. And if it's not sitting flat enough, then you modify it or compact it where you need it to in order to have it sit nice. I'm getting there. Mine's just about there. Okay. So, and chances are, until you've been playing with the bracelet, you'll know what you want. Then you'll know what to do with your next one. Okay, so at this point, and I should mention, I did oxidize this one. It didn't do this on its own. I used the fumes of ammonia to oxidize it, and then I buffed it to get the highlights. So it's good to do that. I wanted to see what it would look like oxidized. You might want to just leave it, do it on its own. But if you're selling it to a customer, I'm thinking that they're probably going to want it to stay this way if you show it that way. And I don't think this is a good option for lacquering it, because on your wrist, it's going to scrape on things, it's going to rub on things, and the lacquer will only last a couple of weeks. So you're better off pre-oxidizing it and buffing it, and you know, have it natural. If you're using copper, that is, of course. So the next thing you need to do is take your chain. Now, in my, and I'll mention that later because I haven't done that part with you yet. I'm actually using 16 inches of chain here instead of 18 inches. That's, you know, your license to choose whatever it is that you want to do. I want you to take a scrap of copper wire or you could take your link. No, I'm going to use a scrap. I'm going to put it at the end of the wire. Chain in the last link. Yes, this is the way to go. Okay. And I'm just going to go like this and bend it up and give it a twist. Well, just like that. I'm not really twisting it. All I want it to do is to be a stop for the beads. And so you need to know ahead of time, or approximately, what size of bracelet you're making, and you're going to need to have something to measure it on, whether it's your wrist or, you know, you can make it extra big. Having that extra length of chain gives you adjustability, like if it's for sale, that you could fine tune it to somebody's wrist. But I want you to start putting on beads the size that you think you'll need, subtracting this. This is about an inch. So rule of thumb is you want a bracelet to be 1/2 inch bigger than the wrist size. With this bracelet, I think you might even want it 3/4 of an inch bigger. So, but you can play with it with your own wrist size. Just familiarize yourself with what the desire would be for you. And so We're going to leave some play space with the chain, and yeah, so 1 inch. I'm going to make mine similar to that. I'm just thinking, I'm going to go with the flow, and I'm going to put it on to fit my wrist completely. And it might be too big, might be too small, but that's if you're going to do it on your wrist, to make the beads to go completely around your wrist tightly. Okay, and I'm going to do that, and I'll be back. I've been rethinking it. If that is 1 inch there, and I do the exact size of my wrist, I'd have 1 inch larger. So when you're doing it, you actually probably want to have a bit of a space, not too much, but a bit of a space. And you're going to have some chain and the clasp. So yeah, you don't, I'm going to give myself this much airspace, which is about 3/4 of an inch, I'd say. We're gonna play with it, and that's what I want you to do too, is just to play and do it on yourself how you think would work best. And then that way, and you know, I'm thinking about it. I have a fairly small wrist. If you're making this for a larger person, you're only going to have enough beads to make 1 bracelet per strand. Let's see where we're at now. And the reason we want to give a little bit of space on the chain is because if it's too tight, the beads are going to give you resistance for bending. So now I'm exactly the size of my wrist. So, and I should count how many beads this is. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30. Okay, I think I've got 30. I did a quick count. I'm going to have to take some of this out. I'm going to take 2 beads out. Okay, and at this point, it's going to, the chain needs to go on the loop of the bracelet, of the clasp, what should I say? Okay, and now we need to put on the exact same amount of beads. Okay, so I will do that and be back, and we will soon shall see if I have too many or not enough.